I never grew up with educators that look like myself. So I
100.
feel like honestly, like we are that new wave that make being wise, being smart, being educated cool, right?
Absolutely.
Wisdom is a powerful tool, but oftentimes we might neglect it because of who it's coming from. You feel me? But if we can chop it up with a young buck and really implant a seed, man, like it's more than just education at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Y'all be having me turn on an announcement. What's going on, everybody? It's the Let's Grow Together podcast, where we bring diverse communities together to serve, connect, and grow in areas that we're most passionate about, and areas that you're most passionate about. And we're
Yeah.
grateful to be here early in the morning, coming from the East Coast, coming from the central location, Chi-Town, in the building. What's going
Yeah.
on, guys? How y'all feeling, man? Check in with me.
You got to ease. Go ahead and lead the check in.
Man, feeling great, bro. Feeling, man, refreshed early in the morning, but man, always good to get off to a good start. Man, so much good things going on with the guys, with the foundation. Man, with all the business moves we've been doing. So man, just feeling blessed, bro. Feeling grateful, man. Ready to have another good podcast, bro. So man, glad to be here.
Go crazy.
Man,
Yes,
same.
sir.
It
Yes,
is. There
sir.
have been a ton of good stuff going on. Um, just just
Oh, yeah.
just got a renter in the second property, you know what I'm
Okay.
saying, in the
Go
last
crazy.
4 weeks. So the mailbox money looking good. Man, I'm gonna tell you something. I feel like I've been around real estate my whole life, and now to be in the driver's seat or actively building a portfolio, I don't know if I've ever felt like something has manifested as a result of thought like real estate. Like it's wild. Like although I played sports and definitely thought my way and working my way into some opportunities, like the real estate is nostalgic. It's amazing because I think it's tied to more than just like sports and athleticism. It's my finances, it's my family, it's like generational. It's tied to so many more of my goals that it's exciting as hell. So I'm geeked, man.
That's crazy, man. I'm gonna have to hurry up and pass it to Marcus, bro, because you see how he's starting off, right? Now I got to go in my bag, pulling out what I'm grateful for. Marcus, on in your way, baby. How you feeling? East Coast living right now, though.
I appreciate it, man. I'm just vibing off of y'all energy, man. I hate I was out last week, sinus bug got me, but I'm back and recharged, bro. And I'm really just having a refreshed mentality for the week, man. I'm actually getting a massage
Welcome
later
back.
today.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But I'm like I said, man, I'm getting a massage later to really just tap back
Ooh.
in, bro. I feel like lately I've been multitasking and dabbling to the point where I haven't had time to really just sit down and center myself. So that's really my focus for the week. While investing in giving parts of me to other pieces, really making sure I'm putting my pieces together collectively for myself in the midst of reflecting.
Absolutely.
So yes, sir.
That's love. That's
Absolutely.
love, 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 man. Real quick, I'm gonna get off into everything myself later, man. Marcus, last podcast, we were blessed to be able to literally share with the audience.
Bro, update the people. You not just gonna skip check-in like that.
Nah,
Y'all see he just did? I'll let y'all know later.
so
Follow
I,
me on
was
Twitter. Come on, bro.
I was gonna drop the hot stuff. I ain't want to drop the hot stuff right now, but I'm gonna drop the part of the update.
Yeah, just do your update, buddy.
All right, bro, let's do the update. So, man, I'm
I said
feeling
your update.
yeah.
How you feeling? How
Update.
was your week? How was your week going?
Okay, man. Week was good, man. Extremely blessed. Got a chance to spend it heavily with the family. Me and the fiance. The little dude, we dropped little dude off of grandma granddad, man. So we spent plenty of time with little dude still.
You
Soccer
got to do
practice, man. You gotta do it. So he's in Little Kickers right now, which is soccer's. He's 21 months, so he really be out here getting it, like representing for all the 1-year-olds.
it.
And then he in baby gymnastics. So Man, the whole week was just great, man. A lot of blessings. We were literally riding a high from last week, man. We got a chance to cut checks for our program for our kids. We got a chance to give them the Rich Dad books. And then we had a big meeting, and it led to some really, really dope opportunities for our youth moving forward. So definitely gonna touch on that on the end in terms of sponsorships, man. But and blessed, G. Like, attitude of gratitude, man. You know how I'm rocking.
You already know.
Yeah, love.
Now you were saying before I rudely
Oh,
cut you off.
thank you. Um, man, Marcus, we literally got a chance to dive into like who we are, what we are doing, but more so important than anything, why we are doing what we're doing, like what made us become the people we are. So we got a chance to dive into heavy, like just to retouch on it, man. A lot of us talked about our background, our upbringing, our family, our support system. East was able to talk about the diverse backgrounds he's been through growing up, but we talked about a lot of times of like who poured into us, right? So for our audience, man, you already know, um, it could be real easy for them to know a 3-and-1, or for your audience to know a 1-and-3. We want to be able to bridge that gap in terms of like, why even Roots mentoring, and then eventually how it all came together to Let's Grow Together through one hashtag. So I know I ran you through a lot, man, but go ahead and open up, baby.
I got you, bro. I got you, bro. Appreciate it. So, for those who don't know, ROOTS is an acronym. It stands for Regiment of Overriding the Statistics. So it all came to me, honestly, man. So I'm from Asheville, North Carolina. Shout out North Carolina. With 3 Chicago boys up here, I got to represent. But so I'm from a predominantly white area. Asheville, North Carolina, very upscale, things of that nature. So kind of going through school, I was always, how can I say this politically correct? I was always the very versatile Black guy, right? I had a whole lot of white friends. I got to go to their house, experience the other side, but I also had a lot of friends who in the streets and did other things. So if you need help with homework, you can call me. If you need a play, you can call me. You know what I'm saying? So I was always very versatile, and I always saw my value in the midst of that. But I was also always that kid in honors and AP classes. So I was very I was the unstereotypical kid in my community, I guess you could say, right? So growing up, I always had my grandfather's influence, who was an alpha man and literally knew everybody in the community. I think we kind of dived into that on the first episode we talked about. Was very, very influential. I always grew up around educators too. My mom was a teacher. My grandma was a teacher. My grandfather was a principal. And there was a lot of just those overlying elements they poured into me. I remember I was doing a project and I was writing in pen and messed up and tried to scribble it out. Boy, my grandma balled that thing up and made me start over. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of mentality, like average is not okay. You are not average. I was always taught that. So for me to go above and beyond, like, wasn't nothing new. And in all transparency, my average, like, was pretty decent in the average standard. So you feel me? There was numerous times where I'd be like, yo, like, why I'm in honors, why I'm in AP? Like, I can breeze through this little slight class, right?
Right.
And my mom and different people would always push me. So what I saw, so to the point where I get to high school, right? I saw a lot of times I might be with a group of peers that get in trouble for doing something, and the assistant principal, pull me aside like, Marcus, we know you're better than this. And there was certain times where things dawned on me like, yo, like, if I was the average kid, I would be in a lot of trouble right now. But through these, you feel me? But through these different connections and different people I'm able to leverage, so I really started looking at things from a business perspective, right? So what really allowed me is when I came, so after graduating high school, I went to Fayetteville State University, where I went out there for football. Football was my passion, kind of similar story to Chuck, but I ended up tearing my ACL, my MCL, dislocated my knee.
Ooh.
I tore my quad. Like bro, it was bad. So eventually I was like, listen, you
That
smart,
boy was
bro.
getting hit hard.
Right.
Listen,
I'm just like,
bruh.
yo,
That boy
I ain't
was
know
getting
at
hit
one
hard.
time, is it
Bruh,
multiple
it
times?
got to a point where coaches would literally pull up on me before the game, like, you know, we about to stop you, right? Because we stop you, we about to get this dub. So I'm like, bring it. And I'm talking about they throw the ball my way, I'm getting smacked, but it's all good. I'm gonna pop up with a smile on my face. You feel me? So,
Okay.
so yeah, man. So fast forward, all that happened, man. And so my freshman year at Fayetteville State, actually, I wasn't much a party goer. I think I lived a fast-paced life early on. So coming to Fayetteville State, man, I went to a party with my boys, right? Ended up getting jumped, right? Changed my whole perspective on everything. It really humbled me, bro. Like, listen, first of all, you're not from the city. First of all, you street, but you're not ghetto. You're not hood.
Right.
You're not XYZ. You feel me? Not to say I ever try to carry myself as such, but the different influences within the culture will have you maneuvering and carrying yourself a way that you don't really align with. And it was a very humbling element. Following that, my squad was really, really ready to ride. I'm like, nah, bro, we gotta take this L. This a lesson, right? And like I said, I really just reflected. It caused me to kind of withdraw into myself. I like to consider myself an introverted extrovert, right? In the beginning, I was happy, talking to everybody, very jubilant. After the fact, I kind of sat back. I would be the person in the cut watching, just observing, right? So I got a whole lot more observative of the different external elements around me. And I really started seeing a lot of people I was with didn't have the same end goals as me. So that was like the first life-changing element, which really kind of helped me reflect, like, what you're doing in your day-to-day is not going to help you nor anybody else really grow. So I said, what can I do to change this, right? So honestly, man, I had an internship. Again, shout out to the frat, Alpha Phi Alpha. I got connected with a frat brother of mine for an internship. Originally, I was just like, yo, like, I need to make some extra bread. I'm trying to do it the right way, XYZ. So I started leveraging my connections. I got an internship with the youth development coordinator of Cumberland County Schools, Jeff May, a good, solid brother, man. And honestly, he brought me to the school that goes by the name of Alger B. Wilkins. It's an alternative school. Pretty sure y'all might have some similar. And really, man, one day I just walked up to the youth and started chopping it up. And I'll never forget, man, it was a young buck, about 16, bro. You couldn't have told me he wasn't a famous rapper, all this chains and all just the swag and the energy he possessed. But I walked up to him, man, and he had like a sad, depressed spirit. And I was just like, bro, like, you fly? You fresh? Like, what you sad for? You know what I'm saying? And he got to tell him his story, come to find out. He watched his brother get killed point blank range at a gas station because bro tried to rob him for his jewelry. You know what I'm saying? And it just really dawned on me, like, even though this external energy is good, until you really have deeper dive conversations with everybody, you don't really even know what they're going through.
Absolutely.
And I was just like, okay, so I got jumped. I can't help that the people who did it had this mentality, but how can I change this going forward, right? And my thought was the youth. You can't change an old head stuck in their ways, but you can help to adjust the thought perspective of a youth. So I was like, this time I'm gonna do it, right? So that was my end with the internship I had. So literally, I just started pouring into the school. After that day, literally, I would just come and I would chop it up with different students. Like, yo, like, what do y'all want to do? What do you want to be? Right. You know what I'm saying? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Someone was like, yo, I'm trying to go to the Army. I'm like, cool. I brought somebody from the Army. And literally, whatever they wanted, I matched it with somebody who looks just like them to show them, yo, this is tangible. This is tangible. Right. You can do this, right? I'm a real firm believer in the mirror effect. If you see somebody already doing what you want, you definitely believe it's that much more attainable, right? A lot of these kids didn't have anybody who graduated high school in their family. When I tell you they was lit at graduation, like they won the Super Bowl, I'm like, that's cool, but what's next? You know what I'm saying? Like, so that was kind of the origin story of Roots. From there, I went to Fayetteville State, which obviously is where I went to school, and literally I started just using my different connections around campus to be an asset to the youth, right? Some of them want to be an accountant, right? I got somebody who's in his third year of accounting classes and can tell you about all the stress that comes with it, right? You want to be a nurse, cool. I got somebody getting ready to graduate that program and go ahead and get into their master's, right? Have you thought about what you're going to do after that? Like, so literally, I just started connecting the pieces and bridging the gap. And what I really saw, it allowed me to help develop the Fayetteville State students so that they could pour into the high school students. So it's really like a trickle effect, man. And ultimately, Roots was born, bro. And now that I've graduated, I have a whole different lens on it. Now I'm kind of like Uncle Marcus to my college students. You know what I'm saying? So I found myself being a big brother, a mentor to them, really pouring into them, but really just trying to stress the development of them and help make the connections for them as well. And honestly, trying to kind of take a step back, because when I build out Roots, it's a program designed for college students to mentor high school students. The reason being, it's a small age gap. We all listen to Polo G. We still deal with the same experiences. So we have a better relatability when it comes to having conversations. I noticed it was instant rapport built. It wasn't faked. It wasn't, you know what I'm saying, having somebody 40 or 50-year-old coming into school and kids being like, bro, like, why are you talking to me? You know what I'm saying? We've all had those kids where somebody trying to talk to them and they just aren't feeling it. So like I said, man, I really saw the rapport was a whole lot easier. And also just a way to really work on the pipeline, because half of my high school students go to college at Fayetteville State. So it's like, this is an ongoing system and a cycle that feeds itself. And plus, man, it's just good for their community. So that's kind of just a overall breakdown of the story, man. But really, I could say my inspiration was my grandfather, my grandmother, my mom having that servant spirit and always seeing them pour into people. And then also just getting jumped, man. And it's crazy to think a negative experience like that would have such a positive outcome. But I think it's all about the perspective, man. I remember I actually went home. It was right before Thanksgiving, man. Man, nah, I was trying not to dive into it, but what happened was, I feel it. So what happened was, man, we had went to a clubbing, bro. Like, I'm not even a clubber, bro. I'm the type, I rather kick it out. Let's have a kickback at my spot and invite my people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm real, I wouldn't even say I'm territorial, but I'm the type of people, I keep my head on the swivel. I'm gonna just say that, bro. I'm not the most trusting person. So when that happened, I actually went to the club with my boys. They convinced me to go. You know what I'm saying? We were definitely influenced, having fun. What happened was, in the club, somebody had actually spilled a drink on one of my boys, and he got to talking, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, cool it, bro. Like, it ain't even worth it. You know what I'm saying? Let's leave. The club ended up closing. People start fighting. I was walking with a squad of my boys, and I noticed one of our boys was lacking, just taking his time. So I like, look, y'all go to the car. I'm gonna grab bruh. We're gonna slide. In the midst of walking to go get bruh, somebody had said something like I honestly couldn't hear what they said, bruh. Mind you, it's 2:30. It's pitch black. Right, you know what I'm saying? We're influenced. Right. I heard something, and they it sounded like they said my name. So in the midst, I turn around. In the midst of turn around, stole right in my jaw, bruh. So I'll jump, I'll pull up, and we just start squaring up. My boy run in, he gets stumped out, and we just fighting, bro. Yeah. I'm telling you, it probably lasted 5 minutes, but it felt like an hour, bro. Like, I felt like I was in a gauntlet. You know how fights be. I swear, bro. I swear.
Bro, but 90 seconds of fighting feel like eternity.
Right. Especially when it's like 8-on-1, bro. I'm telling you, bro. So yeah, man, we started brawling, but come to find out, my boys I told initially to go to the car, they ended up coming running back. So literally, like, we had a brawl. Eventually it was even. So like, yeah, we got right. But you know what I'm saying? We still ended up taking the L because it was right before Thanksgiving. I remember I went back home. I'm sitting here trying to play it off, not tell my people. I'm chewing on the right side of my mouth. They're like, what's wrong with you? Like, I'm talking about my whole left side was swole, bro. Like, it was bad, bro. I ain't gonna stunt, but at the same time, like I said, it was a learning experience. And I took my L to get this dub long term, man. So
yeah. I love that.
That's 100, bro. That's 100. I'm glad you are
key, man. You said something key, and I think it ties directly into where we want to go today on the self-assessing tip.
Hold on, real quick before we dive into self-assessing, because I know that's gonna be a rabbit hole. I just want to talk on the small part of Marcus' story when he was talking about the mentor and like the small age gap, right? I think something was dope that you said, each one, reach one, teach one. I'm not sure if you know this, but in terms of the foundation, how we got started, that was one of the leverage points we used. Because when we first got started, the average age of our mentor was 21 to 22. So even when we first got engaged and started moving, we were kind of seen as the bridge between high school students and like any type of formal institution, just because we've already been there. So I love it just because I never knew that Roots was literally that bridge within that, I guess you could say within the high school to college, and actually like being able to bring the resources together. And there, bro, just hearing your story just makes a lot more sense, just in everything in general. So I had to throw that out there, Chuck. I know when we dive into self-awareness, it's gonna get deep, man. But like that's a big part in terms of the foundation of why we did what we did. Just because we were able to relate. We just knew that if we waited like years on years on years to come back and do it, it just wasn't gonna be the same feeling. It wasn't gonna be the same impact. We wasn't gonna be like having an ear to what was going on.
Hey, you know, one of my mentors told me that really kind of made stuff click, man. My guy Carl PBM stand for a positive black man. Literally, he just feed the community. Literally, you come out, you hungry, he gonna feed you. He gonna put a hot dog and hamburger in your plate. Now I'm just like, bro, like I love what you do, but like, tell me like why? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know these youth, like, and I guess I was just playing devil's advocate with him. And he was like, listen, if I feed one of these youth and I break bread with them and I treat them right, it's a chance that if they see me and something was to go down, I'm way less likely to get touched. And I was like, yo, like, I didn't even think of it from that perspective. Cause like, I mean, the city, bro, it has a ignorant element to it, bro. So I think if I can be an asset to any of these young bucks, like they gonna remember. And not to say like they ain't into stuff, but if they was to ever see me in the mist, I'm good.
Solid.
You know what I'm saying? So
That's solid. So,
Hey, but that started from the verse that, in my opinion, because I can resonate with your story super heavy. Um, that started with your versatility. You feel me? Like, I think definitely speaking on my own personal experiences when you are an AP kid, when you are an all-star athlete, when you are someone who cares about how you carry yourself and the outcomes that's coming into your life, like it's very easy to to judge people who don't, right? To judge people who may not be on their P's and Q's or have goals and be looking at college and, be looking at, division, playing division, NCAA sports. And I think that being comfortable and vulnerable enough to explore both sides should have created that safe haven for you. Well, now I don't know where you were, if you know what I'm saying, if you knew those guys or what that was all about. But in general, I feel like, man, it's like it's an old I ain't even gonna say fairy tale because it's kind of real. It's an old saying or adage, I guess you can say. And when you come from like, inner city communities, it's like when they know somebody gonna make it, they kind of protect you.
yeah.
And I was definitely that kid in my neighborhood where like, man, I hung with the, I ain't gonna say I hung with them regularly, but I could go chill with the drug dealers. I could go, chill with the guys who had guns and knives and stuff on them. And then at the same whip, I was also going to chill with the guys that play RuneScape and Minecraft. And neither group, I won't say neither, both groups, I've stated in a different way, both groups, I felt like protected me from myself or from some of the paradigm that I had in me at that point in time that could take me in a different direction. But
they was able to see your light, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what I wanted to mention to bring to Marcus though. Is like, I think that's huge that you figured out at a very young age, like where your values lied and like really leaning into it for, you know what I mean, to keep it 100. Like you leaned into it. When I say getting clear on your values, you realize very early on that like, yo, I'm different and it's okay to be different. And like what gave you the motivation and the courage to really lean into that?
So, and I'm glad you said that, man, because I was actually about to speak on this. It's been numerous times, like when I went to church or something, and like the pastor just be talking to me like, "You different." And I'm just like, yo, like, why do I keep saying this? Like, what? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Of course, growing up, man, like you wanna, you know what I'm saying, be part of the flock to an extent, man. And I had to realize, like, you are not a flock. Like that does not align with you. And what I think it really was, so my father used to work at the rec center, like in the hood, like right down the street. So like all the D-boy, like everybody respected him. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's Mr. Stan, like he off limits, like type joint. And I would go there and you know what I'm saying? Maybe want to be a street as hood as I could be. Like I was like, that's not you, bro. So like seeing how he was like the neighborhood dad and like how they didn't have their dad. And that's why he filled this void. Like you have a father, you know what I'm saying? So it just put things in perspective for me. And I was like, bro, like you were blessed. You were beyond blessed. Like stop capping. Like I really just had to have a conversation with myself. And regardless of the influences around me, I realized I was in a good position. But ultimately I did rebel. I was very, very rebellious. I hated authority figures, like with a passion, bro. Like it's not the authority, it's and that's why I know we relate, bro. I wouldn't even say it was just the authority figure, but it's your tone. For instance, I remember I was in summer camp and the parent, because I just don't like people flexing power. Like I really have a problem with that. Like I have to bite my tongue still today. I remember we were in summer camp and there was a parent that was like, pull your pants up. I looked at him and I just kept walking. He was like, you hear me, pull your pants up. Bro, like, I kid you not, bro. Like, I dropped my pants and just walked off in my boxers. Like you're not gonna tell me how to act, and you're not my father. Like, and that was the type of person I was. I was very, very bullheaded, man. All my assistant principals was like, Marcus, you got so much potential, but you're bullheaded. And honestly, it didn't really click for me until, like I said, I had got jumped. And it was like, bro, like in the back of my head, I told myself, like, don't go to that party, bro. Like, you bullheaded. Like, so stuff. I had to take that L for everything to really make sense, bro. But aside from that, the frat had so much to do with it, bro. Like, I'm not, the frat ain't for everybody, but the frat teaches you so much stuff, bro. And it was a time where, like I said, after I got jumped, I was very, very reclusive, bro.
Say your frat, bro. Say your frat. Yeah, everybody don't have the same frat experiences.
Touche. Hey, and that's really real. But I think I'm trying to shock us. I was gonna say there's a frat for everybody, but there's not. So never mind. I ain't gonna count. You right. But my frat, you right. Alpha Phi fraternity did a lot for me, and I think it was, like I said, having my grandfather as the tangible example. You know what I'm saying? Seeing that servant mentality and now being able to go pass out food to the homeless, to do things of that nature. But really, an experience that really altered my thought process going forward. I had my right-hand man who was my LB, Malcolm, and he was my roommate. Like I said, after I got jumped, bro, I was OD reclusive. Line brother, you right. I appreciate you, brother. But
he had to drop that out there.
I was very, very reclusive to the point where, honestly, bro, I just don't trust people. Like I said, man, I go in a party and I post up on the wall and just watch that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was really the role I started playing. Right. And he pulled me aside one day because literally, like, I'll rap with him how I rap with y'all. He'd be like, bro, like, you smart. Like you all right. Like, you know what I'm saying? And he was like, you're talented, but if you don't share your gifts with people outside of your inner circle, you can't bless others. And honestly, that did so much for me. I'm talking about, there was days where I just sat in my room and was really thinking about that. Like, what does he mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I took a deep dive into that so deep to the point where I was like, you know what, you're right. And honestly, without that conversation, I don't think Roots would have came about, because I was all about building up myself and protecting my energy. But I think a part of being vulnerable is letting people into your space. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that was so difficult for me. And I think it was because I had got jumped. I think it was because, like, the betrayal and how, you know what I'm saying? Like, the small scale stuff. And I think just as men, to be transparent, like, it's hard for us to be vulnerable sometimes. I think a lot of times we want our bubble because we can impact and influence our bubble if it's our bubble. But as soon as, you know what I'm saying, we start merging or collaborating, we open ourselves up. But honestly, that, as well as I was assistant executive director of the Southern region, that put me at tables with people I didn't even speak the same jargon with at that point in time. You know what I'm saying? So it got me very, very uncomfortable. I never ran a meeting with Robert Rules of Order. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even know how to time my own tie for the interest meeting. You know what I'm saying? So it caused me to rapidly develop at a pace that was very uncomfortable for me. But ultimately, it led to great connections. It led to great exposure, and really, it just matured me. So I definitely got to shout out the frat.
Man, you already know we got nothing but love for him.
Uh-huh.
I say you already know we got nothing but love for him, man. My pops, my brother Glenn. I'm about to say even my brother Pudge didn't go Alpha when Kappa route, but Divine Nine, such a beautiful thing.
Yes, sir. It's all about the work, regardless of the different colors and all that other stuff, man. Everybody getting their feelings over that, but
So
ultimately, man.
What age range was that you start being invited to tables? What was that? 18, 19? What year were you in college?
So it was my sophomore year. So I was 19? Yeah, bro. So, and I was the youngest on my line. So imagine me being the bullheaded, playful, energetic, hype, you know what I'm saying? And then having to matriculate in a serious position where people are looking up to you, you're speaking and things of that nature. And honestly, like it was a flip. And then right after that, Avery was born. So
Right.
those are probably like my three drastic moments to put everything in perspective was getting jumped, you know what I'm saying, having my conversation with my LB, and then Avery being born. Because when Avery was born, everything altered. Ain't no partying, ain't no lit, ain't no female. Like, it's game time. Yeah, point blank, period. And like I said, man, I was able to carry that alpha hustle, that roots hustle into my career field. And now, like, wasn't no kicking it, you know what I'm saying, with the boys. Like, it was leaving class, going to work, you know what I'm saying, leaving work, coming back to the family. And that was like the cycle. And now, I'm 24 years old now. My boy be like, shit, let's go kick it. Nah, bro. Like, what we about to do? Like, what we about to talk about? Like, is it worth my time and energy? Like, in all honesty. And it's a whole different conversation. So,
Man,
that's real.
Mark, it sounds like your reflection and your self-assessment, even though it probably didn't set in until college, it really started when you were in high school.
Yeah.
Like,
nah,
it really
definitely
started when you were, the young buck, 14, 15, you know what I'm saying?
I was fighting it though. I was fighting it then. In college, I was like, it got me. It is what it is. But yeah, I was running. Yeah, 100%, man, in all transparency, because I wasn't ready to sit down and take on the responsibilities that come with it. But the crazy parallel is, y'all got youth. They always be like, man, I'm grown, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was always an oxymoron. Yeah, you so grown, but you don't want to take on grown responsibilities, and you got nothing but time right now. So, yeah.
Yeah, we don't even have a concept of what grown is at that point. But let's shift to East, man. I'm kind of interested to deep dive into self-assessing and really understanding who you are, why you're here, your purpose, all of that good stuff, your strengths, weaknesses. East, what age would you say you started really like looking around and reflecting on your experiences or beliefs or whatever it was that kind of helped you become or begin developing the East we know today?
And I think a lot of my perspective, a lot of my self-awareness came pretty early because I was exposed to different communities, was a part of different communities with different people, was in classrooms with different types of people. So for me, that really got me curious about why things are the way they are. Why does my family fit into different communities differently? Why do we fit into the church community the way we do? Why do we fit into the Black community the way that we do? And then once we moved and I went to a school that was more predominantly white, it was how do I maneuver in this new environment? How do I make new friends, and how do I still be myself while also trying to learn more about the cultural differences, right? So for me, that self-awareness came early, about third, fourth grade. Then as we got older, high school, it went to another level. My cousin, when he was diagnosed with autism, gave me a whole nother drive, a whole nother why, a whole nother what is my purpose, right? Just seeing somebody who I'm that close with, somebody who's like a little brother to me, struggle with things that, we took for granted. So that gave me just a whole different level of gratitude for things that I had, for the gifts that I had, and just wanted to give those gifts of, I always was a somebody who was able to make people feel good, was able to make people laugh, smile, was able to show love. So for me, being able to do that with my cousin and then seeing his growth made me even more inspired, motivated to dedicate my life to youth, all youth across different communities, which is my story, being in different communities, and then wanting to give back to students, young people who have some type of special need, just the personal impact that it had, emotional impact that it had on me. So yeah, it was a combination of life experiences, living in different communities around the Chicagoland area,
Right.
west suburbs, Proviso Township, and the west side, just seeing the differences within 15, 20 minutes of each other. And then just the personal struggle of my family and, a diagnosis that really changed everything within the family.
That's real, Brody. My bad, Cody.
Nah, you're all good. I mean, of course, while the guys were talking, man, I'm just sitting here the whole time, just reflecting, like
Right.
self-assessing, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, when did that change happen for me? And I think, like all of us were, man, we were blessed to have someone within that male role to come and affect our lives and impact our lives. And for me, it was my coaches, and simultaneously, it was my dad. My dad coached me every sport all the way up until my freshman year of high school, and he was still coaching me my freshman year of high school at Walther. And when we were playing travel baseball, we played for Upper Deck Cougars. And Upper Deck Cougars is all the way out in Birmingham. We used to practice out there. And even to give a little bit of reference, I just remember while we were playing, we had ended up, I don't want to say purchasing is the right word, but the Jackie Robinson League. We were sponsoring them. So that year they made it that far. And, BS happened in terms of politics that they didn't get rightfully due what they deserve. But we'll get off into that another day. But we had a big baseball program. And because of that, me and my brother was one of the few blacks on the team. So like being my first experience to like outside culture, I would say besides like summer camp, bro, being able to like I'm born and raised in Maywood, but going to Camp River Forest, it was playing baseball with people, being able to interact within diverse communities. So when I finally went to St. Paul Lutheran, it was majority black and transferring to Grace Lutheran River Forest. Again, that dynamic from sixth grade. Oh, dog, a lot changed for me. Like I was blessed to be able to have friends like Glenn Mine, and guys I'm still tight with today. Definitely Glenn. I was blessed to have that opportunity because when I first got there, I mean, it was different. Like I was so used to like literally just being open, being me, being loving, being free spirit, to like not recognizing. I wouldn't say just not recognizing preconceived assumption and expectations about who I was. I never experienced that before. And having that at that age, and like remember having to read out loud in the group, and not having a problem with reading out loud just because I am who I am, but messing up on certain words and have people look at me and snicker. That was my first time experiencing that. So even for me, being able to grow up and kind of like take that shift out, going to Walter, being in a diverse community again, I feel like the biggest change for me, like within saying all that, same way East talked about it, I think it's like literally getting in a different environment and being forced to get uncomfortable. Like no matter what, don't have a choice, like sink or swim. And that's time. It wasn't about the normal things, like in terms of sports. It was about how you carry yourself, how you enunciate, how you speak, if you're, your rhetoric, the whole nine. And that was the first time that kind of got thrown out to me, man. So the self-awareness on my part was definitely last but not least was when I was going to high school. And those who know, my brother is a freak athlete, like still is a freak athlete to this day.
Absolutely.
And you know what I'm saying? And like from taking second in state in the hurdles and track when he ain't never ran track before, just because off of athleticism, not off of form, being able to lead the state in basketball when that's not your main sport, and you go off to play college football, being committed to Northwestern his sophomore and junior year. Um, I was always in his shadow. For me, I was always trying to assess what can I do to be different. Hence why I've done a cappella choir, why I was in chess club, why I was in drama club, why I was a 3-sport athlete just like him. But I was doing things that allowed me to
One of
like
those sports
literally
was volleyball.
volleyball.
Yeah.
Took third in
You know what I'm
state.
saying? 'Cause most people
You
think it's
know,
baseball, football, track. No.
you know what I'm
It's
saying?
volleyball.
No,
Private
no
school.
matter private,
Private school.
legit, bro, legit private
You in
school
a
stuff,
city
man.
school. It ain't no volleyball, shorty. Not for
It
the
ain't
boys.
no volleyball for the boys, man. But like even that experience, bro, we took third in state. Like set the record of serves at my grade school, right? So I think different things like that allow me to like really just be like, yo, I'm different. Because for me, Marcus, it wasn't necessarily trying to prove to myself I was different for the whole world. It was more so proving I was different from my brother. Cause you growing up in that shadow your whole life. And it's the same thing with East. East talk about the same thing. Both of our brothers were very, very, very high caliber athletes. And it's not to say that we weren't good athletes. We still played at the next level. But when you're
Y'all just won
comparing,
6'2" and 6'3". That's all.
we just wasn't 6'2",
Hey, me and my brother the
6'3".
same height. We built different.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We built differently. Different types
that's
of
If y'all
players.
would have been 6'2", 6'3", it would have been show. You know what I'm saying?
Hey.
yeah, and then East played baseball, right? Body types matter a lot on that. Football, I'm just like, yo, you know, let's go out and get it. But like, nah, still a big difference, man. So for me, it was really trying to figure out like, yo, what separates me, what makes me different. The same way, Marcus, was just hearing people my whole life just tell me I was special and I was different. Like I had something to me. And when you start hearing multiple people say that, you can maybe let one go past, maybe two or three. But when you hear people keep saying that, you start to like throw that attention on yourself, like, yo, what are they seeing? Like, what is it? I want to see it too. I don't understand it. And you start going back in that observative role, that self-reflective role, where you start looking at stuff and trying to observe it a little bit more. So for me, man, it was definitely a course from grade school to high school and really trying to identify and make a name for myself, something different than just sports. I never always related with just being a football guy. I believed in being like me,
The Renaissance man.
the
Yes,
Renaissance man.
sir.
He's
Yes,
still a
sir.
Renaissance man. I just think
Chuck,
that's so dope. What's up, Mike?
I gotta ask you something, man, because Cody and East both touched on something that I think I really want to hear your perspective on. And even kind of hearing my story, I can see you really related to it, right? So I just want to hear from your perspective, like how the self-awareness comes into play when you kind of have to look at the polar opposites of the realms that you dabble in. You know what I'm saying? For mine, it was going from Asheville, which is 90% white, to going to Fayetteville, which is 95% black. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was really those polar opposites where you really had to self-identify and really know yourself in order to maneuver properly, right? So I
Right.
just kind of want to hear from your perspective, from a self-awareness viewpoint, like how did that come into play? Because I know you kind of dabble in some polar opposites as well too. So I kind of just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Man, what it really boiled down, man, I have an amazing stepfather. You know what I'm saying? Like that was my first contrast. I'm consciously, I'm gonna say that was my first contrast experience in life, where he forced me to think beyond my physical, my age, my physical environment or what was going on. Like he always had me look beyond what was. So it started in just conversations with my stepdad. I think he came into my life around like I might have been 6 or 7 years old, something like that. I never really thought about what age he came into my life, but 6 or 7, something like that. And the reason that I say it started with him was because I'm from the South Side of Chicago, all Gale Gardens. Anybody who is aware of the South Side, they know it can be a tough place, a really tough place. And then anyone who's aware of the All Gale Gardens, that's one of the toughest places to grow up in the city. And even though we left the Gardens at a very young age, I still my whole family was there. So, they say you could take the person out the hood, but you can't take the hood out the person. Um, Even though I wasn't technically raised there, I was raised with people who still had the Gardens mentality, just tough, rugged, improvising, making the most out of nothing. Um, it, my stepfather had me reflect on, is this actually the life that I want?
Mm.
So to answer your question specifically, Marcus, because there were a lot of habits that I had, and there was a lot of things that I was experiencing or having an opportunity to observe, whether it was within my family, my friend group, or just the environment in general, that I didn't necessarily want, you know what I mean? I didn't, but if you don't consciously reflect and think about those things, it's easy to fall victim to those same behaviors, that same belief system, and the same mentality. So my stepdad, he was very intentional about having me think to myself, like, yo, like, I know it's cool. I know you grew up in an environment or came from an environment where fighting and showing how physically tough you are is the cool thing. That's a differentiator. If you don't show that, then people might pick on you or come at you some type of way. But do you really want to live your whole life looking over your shoulder? Do you really want to be fearing for yourself when you go to a party or you go hang out with friends? So my stepdad played a huge role in having me really ask myself, like, is this the life I want? And how that expanded into other things is like, when you, I'll say around middle school, this is probably when I was getting in the most trouble, getting into a lot of fights, getting kicked out of school. Those lessons kept coming, right? Where I had teachers, I had coaches, I had individuals who would tell me, like, man, like, it's not me, but like, you're better than that. You have more potential than that. And I hit a point in eighth grade where I really had to ask myself, I'm talking about, like, sit down, like, like, I would call it a meditative state, as a youngin', and ask myself, like, yo, if you continue doing some of the stuff that you're doing, and let me give context. Knowing what I know now and being exposed to some of the people that I grew up with or mentor, I was not a bad kid, but there's some destructive behaviors that can cloud all of your potential. And mine was fighting. I didn't. And when people don't feel safe around you, when people feel like you're going to put yourself or you're going to put their children in harm's way, that lens is often very hard for you to navigate yourself out of. And when you're consistently, and I, it's not something that I brag about, like, I was a strong, big kid who actually knew how to fight. So, like, when you're consistently putting yourself in positions where people are going to figure out or find a way to beat you in some way, shape, or form, the older you get, right? That's at some age, when you come from where we come from, that's a life and death decision every single time you put yourself in those situations. So, man, when I sat down around eighth grade and asked myself, like, yo, do you is this really the path you want to create for yourself? You're a solid athlete. You love to read, you do well in class, you make friends easily. Like, I definitely knew I had strengths. I definitely knew I had potential to be something special. But I was so committed to the old idea of myself as a tough guy or someone who wasn't going for none or someone who was loyal that I wasn't allowing myself to truly lean into the best version of myself. And that was why I asked that question to you, Marcus, was because and to kind of segue the convo a little bit, well, I won't even say segue, move the conversation forward. hearing all of our stories, it's very clear that there was some moment or moments. It was either one moment, a few different moments, or consistent reminders of like, yo, there's more. Yo, there's more. There's more in you and there's more for you if you can only choose to lean into it. So, man, I would love to hear, and to throw it back to Marcus, when did you I won't even assume, have you completely committed to this idea of self-assessing and personal developing yourself? Or do you still go back and forth, one foot on side of the line? Sometimes you got to go slapping it.
Nah. Nah, and again, I think it's all Avery. I give all credit to Avery and her mother, because I know my actions now impact other people. And I think that, matter of fact, that's it. That was the biggest turn point. Because in the midst of mentoring, like my little brother, which is my fiance's little brother, they would just ask me like, what helps stuff click? I realized if I do something, if I get in trouble, my mom crying. You know what I'm saying? If I go to jail, my mom crying. It's not that I'm in the situation. It's how it impacts others around me.
Right.
And I think that's what really kind of made things change. And honestly, bro, I had to sit down and do a SWOT analysis. In the midst of kind of hearing you talk, I realized my strengths, but I also had to be transparent and realize my weaknesses. You know what I'm saying? And recognize the opportunities for me to expand on, but also analyze the threats that I deal with on every day, that I know if this happens, I'm taking steps backwards.
Right.
And so I need to make sure I disconnect myself from those different threats, or maybe not have that energy around me, man. I think it really boils down to that as well. But there was one thing you really said that just stood out to me, man. It's just really having that transparent conversation with yourself. And I think you gotta lean into that. To your point, man, you cannot run from that, because ultimately you won't really be able to define yourself.
Right.
And I think defining self is so vital. And honestly, I think that's why a lot of youth in today's society are lost, because they aren't transparent with their self.
I think this my bad, Marcus.
Go ahead.
I think this conversation is just so important, man, because especially in today's culture where you're exposed to everything. You got the 6ix9ine gangsters, you got the old school 50 Cent gangsters. Almost everyone that's idolized has an old trap story, or you got Gucci, you got Jay-Z. P. Diddy might be the only one without some like old school drug experience story. He was just some guy like who just worked harder than everybody. But if you look at all the other icons in music, they all have. Nipsey Hussle had a drug and gang background. 50 Cent had a drug and gang background. Jay-Z has a drug and gang background. Dame Dash, like all of our icons. And given that was just a generation, right? The 70s and the 80s, that was they called that the crack epidemic. Or when drugs was really poured into our communities. So it makes sense. But the thing that I want to emphasize or point out is the youth all of them. So many of them all have this innate. Black youth. Let's just talk about minority youth, Black, brown, Latino. There tends to be this innate desire to want to appeal to that life. I don't know what it is. It's like, because our narrative, the African American or Latino narrative, for so long has been rags to riches, hood to from the hood to Bel Air. We gotta get it out the mud. We gotta, whatever the scenario or the metaphor you want to use. Since that has been our narrative for so long, I see now kids that don't even grow up in those circumstances, who don't have to experience that lifestyle, fight to get there. So I love this conversation, because I feel like we're advocating like, yo, you don't even have, if that's not your experience, that's cool. Just be you.
Be you.
Just be you. There's a space, there's room for all of us. We don't have to appear. We don't have to appeal to the gangsters. We don't have to appeal to the hustlers. We don't, if that's your story, cool. Embrace it and move forward and grow out of it. But if it's not your story, and that's what I loved about connecting with Cody, East, and the rest of the guys from the foundation, Marcus. If I'm gonna keep it 100, bro, like these were some of the first African American men that I ever been around in my life who were comfortable being themselves, and they did not have my story, my origin story. They weren't not fighters growing up. They were not around gang. I ain't gonna say they weren't around them. I'm sure they were exposed to them, and they got them in their family just like everybody. But like that wasn't.
It wasn't an everyday environment.
Right. It wasn't there. It wasn't that what they were proud of or beating on their chest about. And I loved that because it was one of the first times in my life where I can put myself in an environment and be, they gave me increase for not the violent part of myself, not the fighter. They gave me increase because I was well spoken. They gave me increase because I did care about my grades. They gave me increase because, hey, if I can't drink on a weekend because I got a game, then I can't drink, or I'm not drinking at all.
And because you kept it 100, bro. Like, you kept it 100. Like, one of the things he told me in college was like, yo, true best friends keep it honest with you, whether you want to hear it or not.
A1.
Like, that resonated, bro.
Absolutely. So what do y'all think? What do y'all think? Like, do y'all feel like this conversation, do y'all feel like y'all had a space growing up where like you felt comfortable being the best version of yourself? Like the Renaissance men that we are now? Like, do y'all feel like this conversation has had enough in our community and the culture?
No.
Man, hell no. Like, it's not had enough. You know, like, I feel like, man, just like similar to like what I was saying before, yo, I was blessed to have so many adults like around me. And I'm like, and enough praises don't go to our teachers, but like my teachers gave me a safe space to be me, bro.
Love that.
You know what I'm saying? My teachers literally gave me a safe space to be me. Me and East went to a private school in Merrill's Park, western suburb of Chicago.
Right.
Now Walter Christian Academy, what was Walter Lutheran. And when you only have no more than 400 students in your school, when your school is two hallways, my bad, yeah, two hallways and two floors and two short hallways, multi-purpose room, a gym, a lunchroom, and a music room, that's your whole school. You ain't got that much space. You get really comfortable knowing everyone. I'm talking about from your teachers to your maintenance man to everyone, man. Like, it's a small knit community, and when you feel like that became my larger family, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could be who I wanted to be, and then when you get a chance to have that environment self-assessed throughout college, and I mean throughout high school, then you get an opportunity to go to college, and you have a little bit more awareness to know that like I could literally create the best version of myself and be that person. It was easy for me to come on a football and start leading. That's who I always been. I always been a hard worker. I always been a leader. But to be able to step aside like sophomore year and to pick up something like multi-level marketing, network marketing, when I was already looking at it and being able to step into that, like, yo, that was a blessing, bro. So y'all already know, man. I'll be getting long-winded to the point that I'll be forgetting the point that was said. But
no, you did answer it. You did answer. We was just saying like the question was, do you feel like this? Do you feel that this conversation has had enough in the culture about, or you answered this question also? Did you feel like you had an environment growing up where you could lean into the idea of the best version of yourself with that identity?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm grateful for that, bro. I'm like grateful 100% for that, and like that's the main thing we try doing for people now. Anytime we engage, man, shout out to OGs, man, and then even shout out to OG Steven Jackson. That's why we do what we do. When we hold circle. When we hold circle, we create a safe space, literally. And when we say safe space, that means an opportunity for you to show up and be you.
Right.
Literally show up and be you. And we create a safe space that people can literally connect and build perspective, understanding, and community. Like, That's crucial, dog. And like we're gonna dive into like, oh, that's a whole nother. We'll dive deep once we get out. But that's what we do, bro. When we do our service events, man. One of the good news we was talking about, man. We just had a service event. Was it last weekend?
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago with Foot Locker and Chasing Greatness Productions. And that was huge just because that led to us being sponsored by Foot Locker for the year. That was the hot news we was going to drop. Like, so the crowd effect in the back out. Right? So, like, man, all praises, man. Like, nothing, definitely all praises, man. But, like, for that, it's the same thing, man. That self-awareness led to that. Being able to create those safe spaces that people get involved and get engaged in and be literally them. Bro, that's the change, man. When you have it, when you're always in a space that you have to hold on to an old paradigm or old image of who you are, how you gonna grow?
Yeah.
You need people to create that space for you to be like, yo, you could be vulnerable. Same thing we do with our kids in a mentorship program. When they say stuff like, imagine when you're trying to say a dream or a goal all the time and you stuck in this environment that's not feeding you energy about it, where you're in an environment that you can't even stand up and be yourself. One of the things that we did again when we were in college, bro, multi-level marketing, bro, we used to stand up in a room and say what you want and why you want it. We used to say all the time, if you don't have clarity about what you want in your life, how the hell you gonna get it? Right?
Yes, sir.
So it's like,
boy,
if you don't have that, and like, man, I have to go in on this. Y'all know I love talking about clarity and self-awareness, but more than anything, if you don't have that safe space, if you don't have that environment, if I were you, I would grab hold on to one. I would find other people that are looking to be vulnerable as well. Because if you can't be vulnerable in that space, that dream you have, that vision, it will never live on. It
Right.
continues to die with every but, with every how, with every nah, that's not you. Nah, stick in your lane, man. So,
Be real.
I mean, man, be realistic. What is realistic? Realistic ain't bending and crumbling up metal and flying it overseas. That's a plane. Realistic ain't being able to turn on the light on and off like electricity. Like, come on, bro. You know what I'm saying?
My girl said, we talking about real estate the other day. And I said something, she said something, and she was like, I'm just being real, or I'm a realist or something like that. Boy, we almost got into a real argument. Like she cursed
Like,
at
did you
me.
say the word? What? Realist?
I felt like she cursed at me. I was like, what does that even mean? I was like, who's defining real? Like, who's defining real? But that's a whole nother conversation too. It just brought me back to that place, boy. That was a traumatic moment.
Cody, can I speak to what you said, brother? That I messed around and took some notes on it, brother.
Of course.
I love it. You talked about the unsung heroes almost, you know what I'm saying? And that was a teacher for you. For me, that was the lunch lady.
Multiple teachers. Oh, you said multiple lunch ladies.
Yeah, mine was the lunch ladies, you know what I'm saying? Going to predominantly white high school, the only black people there was the lunch ladies. You know what I'm saying? So and ironically, they happen to know my grandparents. So if they see me doing something crazy, they cut the eyes at me, and I'm like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what comes with that, man. And then honestly, I was just kind of reflecting to like the origin again. We said my government name is Stanley, right? That's my first name. That's my father's name, right? I decided to transition.
Again.
Now
Stanley.
I'm telling you, my resumes be popping though. Like for real. So the transition from Stanley to Marcus, I think really relates and brings everything whole circle. Being Stanley growing up, having my father's name, being referenced as Flat Stanley in the white schools, and me getting a little bit aggressive, like tone it down, and then realizing like, yo, like you are Marcus, this is your identity, and really just aligning with people who saw the best in me, like those lunch ladies, like that Spanish teacher that's willing to pull you aside and cuss you out under her breath. You know what I'm saying? Like that was so helpful for me. Or even to Chuck's point, man, my football coaches did so much for me, and I didn't even really realize it until I was reflecting. But I think the biggest takeaway I have from one of my football coaches, he told me, anytime you point a finger at somebody, there's 3 pointing back at you.
Right.
And like that blew my whole mind. And it just helped me kind of have the self-awareness, the standard, the accountability, and everything that comes with that going forward. Because you can blame everybody. You can blame your situation. You can blame your growing up. But ain't nobody put a gun to your head and tell you to do this or that. You know what I'm saying? So ultimately, you made that decision on your own. And as y'all could tell by now, we're not going to have a growth segment because this conversation has just been on fire and so relevant and so really on point, man. And I think, to Chuck's point again, man, this is something we need to encourage more people to do, even if it's just sitting down and like get vulnerable. And I know that's so difficult for us as Black men. That's one thing that I've realized. We do not like being vulnerable by any means, but I think you cannot grow unless you permit yourself to be.
It's one of those things where, like, because when we say self-assess and we say self-assessing leads to self-awareness, so we use the words interchangeably, but just to create a definite or a more finite, a less finite understanding of it. Self-assessing and leads to self-awareness, and when we say self-assessing, how do you know when you're self-assessing? What does that look like? Man, it's unconscious. It's not even something you have to control. I mean, it's not even something you have to try to do. It's just in your spirit. So we have a saying, or there's something that we learned to say: our spiritual DNA is perfect. We learn to do wrong. We learn to be quote unquote bad. There's no such thing as good and bad. Only our thinking makes it so. Right. But I'm saying that to say, when you're partaking in an activity or thinking a thought that doesn't align with your perfect spiritual DNA, the first moment, the first feeling, the first emotion that derives is the first opportunity of self-assessing or self-assessment. The feeling, not the behavior. This is before you, and a lot of times we do things so impulsively, we feel like there is no feeling in between. We feel like there isn't a gap in between our thought and our behavior. And sometimes there isn't. That's why they call it reaction and reaction. That's why they call it our reflexes, right? But for the most part, the first sign that something is not truly in your spirit, in your heart, is the emotion that you get the moment after the action takes place, whether that's a physical behavior or thought. Yeah. There's a moment where, and I ain't even trying to get deep. I'm not even trying to talk about morality. I'm not talking about murder. I'm not talking about rape. I'm not talking about those things, because I don't believe that the average person can relate or connect to those things. We're talking about, like, when you sitting at that party and everybody's smoking, and you know you don't really smoke like that, but you choose to smoke because everybody else smoking. There's a moment where your spirit feels an emotion about that activity, and that is your inner being. That is the guy in you. Like, this doesn't align with my values at this point in time. This doesn't align with who I am. Or maybe it's, you know, in our culture, it's very acceptable to be a to not be a one-woman man, right? In our culture, it's very acceptable to be a player or to be a gigolo, right? There's some guys that's not built for that, but because the culture has told us time and time again that that's what it looks like to be a man, that's what it looks like to have clout or to have respect in our community, there's a constant battle. There can be a constant battle for those men who know, like, man, this ain't right. This is not okay. This was not how I was raised. There's a constant battle to pursue multiple women or to be that guy, as opposed to doing what Marcus said, leaning into the idea that, like, nah, I'm a one-woman man. That's how my father taught me to be. Or maybe I didn't have a father figure. My mom just went through hell with all the guys that she was with, and I want to treat women differently, right? So, like, I just wanted to bring that full circle and emphasize the fact that, like, yo, in the moment of self-assessment, the first navigation piece, the first tool, the first natural thing that happens in us is the emotion that activity creates or the thought creates. And if you can become consciously aware of that emotion, it will tell you where your heart is.
Yep. Literally.
It will tell you where your heart is.
Literally, bro.
You need to write a book, brother. that was good. That was good.
Appreciate it. Man. A lot of study. It ain't mine. I can brag about everything that I said because none of it's mine. That's what I meant.
Man, you guys been going crazy. I just want to hit on one thing that it was hit on a couple times is the identity that as Black men, a lot of times we try to take on. Multiple people talked about it today, just about wanting something, wanting the ideal version of the Black rags to riches story or whatever it might be, wanting to be the toughest, wanting to be the freshest, wanting to be the one who get the most ladies, whatever identity you take on that a lot of times is not the identity that we were taught. It's just the identity a lot of times that the media portrays, the identity that we see in the cool people around us, right? The people who got the money, who got the nice stuff. A lot of times, that's the attitude, that's the energy that they carry. Right. So for us, man, I think it's been so powerful to have a group of people, and honestly, this came around high school and college. You know, having a group of people who show love for being your true self, for being an overachiever, for going to the weight room early in the morning, for going to get help in your classes or after we went to the weight room or after school, whatever it might be. And we push each other. So, man, I'm blessed to have the support system, the environment to be able to really create our own identity, our true identity, instead of being what somebody else expected us to
norm, instead of being a cultural norm.
Right. And that's allowed us to be leaders in our community and to do what we do today because we did create this own picture of ourselves and what was realistic for ourselves. We didn't put ourselves in a box that we saw in our community. So, man, I just want to shout out to all the people who, man, supported us through it and who allowed us to be our true selves and who showed us love for being those kids who were leaders and who were doing some of the right things. And even though we were never perfect, we messed up, we got in trouble, but man, they showed us so much love for being those leaders. So, man, I just wanted to hit on that identity piece because y'all were going crazy on it.
Oh man,
that's 100.
100, bro. Well, man, I'm about to say, man, y'all know we're running close on time. Man, Chuck, if you want to wrap this up, man, I know definitely next time. We did a lot of storytelling, which is amazing, which is very, very restorative. Man, I definitely want to go into some keys of self-assessing, where self-awareness gets you, and then also just moving forward to like creating that clarity of picture, knowing why you do what you do, like moving forward towards goals, man. I think we're a group of people that could speak a lot about goals just because we're blessed enough to achieve a lot and set up the right environment to do so, man. So definitely, man, if anyone have any last parting words, Chuck, if you want to conclude, man, let's get there.
Marcus, you have something? I'll close us out.
Good vibes for your tribe. Thank you for tapping in with the good people. Hey, and real talk though, like outside of for the audience, man, I think this is just so good for us, man. Because like I told you, I was really in a refreshed state. Like I just it like stuff just wasn't spinning, man. It wasn't progressing, and honestly, I just had to sit back and reflect. So even having this very reflective conversation, man, it was very empowering. So just want to say salute, man. This is good for the soul. And anytime 4 Black men can put their pride and ego aside and really have conversations like, bro, this is beautiful, bro. This may not be all over. You feel me? But this may not be blast all over the news. This may not be the latest video on World Star, but like, bro, like this is breaking down mountains and pillars. So I just want to say salute to y'all boys for real.
Just to close it out, Cody started it with it. You know, our mentor told us it doesn't matter where you're going if you don't know where you're at. You can have the fanciest GPS system, the most expensive phone, but until you put your current location into your map, it can't give you directions on where to go. So self-assessing is the process of understanding where you are in your relationships, where you are in your goals, where you are in your health, where you are in your grades, where you are in your profession, profession. I was about to say professionality, and where you are in your profession. And once you can get clear on where you are, it's a lot easier to identify where you're going and how to attract or manifest the things that can help you get there. So, and that's the whole point of the podcast. We just try to help everybody get there.
Just trying to help everybody get there, right? Baby, trying to help you get there.
But to close it out, y'all, we know different. We're not special, man. We just trying to grow with y'all. Let's grow together. Peace.
Peace.